Welcome to the Elite Money Market Update. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined today by CEO of Elite Retirement Group, Patrick Marcel. Patrick, it's great to be back with you. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Couldn't be happier to be here.
Well, good. Well, I know that we have a lot to get in today, as we always do. And one of the things I think that keeps folks up at night when it comes to retirement planning is this concern of, will I outlive my money?
Yeah.
Will, my money last for me? Because we are living longer than we ever have before. So let's start off with that. Talk to me a little bit of how longevity has completely shifted how we need to engage in retirement planning today.
Well, I think when we look at just health in general, it's gotten better. My grandfather, when he retired at 65, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and he didn't live to be 70. Now, that cancer, when he had that, it was pretty much a death sentence. It was like a 12% survival rate.
Wow.
Today, it's over 90%. So we're getting things medically that are definitely helping us live a lot longer. And when we live a lot longer, sometimes we don't think about, what does that mean for our finances? What does that mean for how we've saved for retirement? So I think we really have to think about that and really play into that and see how that impacts our planning for retirement.
When things have shifted so much, because I think, parents, grandparents' generation, people tended to retire around 62. Maybe they would only live to 65 or 70, right? There wasn't this long stretch of time, but now folks are living well beyond that. You could easily have 30 years in retirement. So when you run projections for clients, how far out are you running those? How far are you assuming that one or both, if it's a married couple, for example, are going to live until?
Well, when I started doing this over 20 years ago, I noticed that when I would project out to 90, for example, people would kind of sit back in their seat and go, well, I'm not living that long. But now we're seeing where people are living a lot longer. Even my mother's mother, my grandmother, she lived into her early 90s. And, she was, I would say, not necessarily the healthiest person, but she lived quite a long time. So we project typically to age 90. We know that it's basically a place to start from. So when we do projections, one of the things I tell people is that it's a place to start. So we don't put a plan together, do the projection and say, that's good, we're done. We don't have to do any more. What we're gonna do instead is we're gonna come back and we're gonna revisit this on an annual basis, make sure that we're dialed in. What changes? I had a client that came in and we planned all of the retirement. We got it all laid out, and pretty young yet, really, in his early 60s. Come to find out, a year after he retired, he's like, yeah, I have Parkinson's. He goes, this changes everything.
For sure.
We had another one where my father-in-law worked with this couple for a long time, and he retired, and shortly after, his wife passed. He said, now we saved all this money, now what do we do?
Right.
So there are things that come up that can be one-offs, I would call it, not normal. But I think it is very responsible to plan for a much longer life. To live to 90, maybe we will, maybe we won't. But at least if we have a plan in place, we can put things out there, we can put allocations in place that can accommodate for those changes that come along, really, when they do. And sometimes they will. I always say, the one thing for sure is that whatever we think will happen, won't.
Right, but you want to be prepared, right? I mean, it's important to be prepared for the unexpected.
Right, and I say a lot of times scouting is a very important part of who we are at Elite Retirement Group. Our logo, you can see the eagle on there. That's part of the Scouts, being Eagle Scouts, and we have a lot of Eagle Scouts in our family. Motto, be prepared, right? And we want to help our clients be prepared for the different things that come up in retirement, because life's just different, and it's not going to be exactly like we anticipate, but we want to make it the best retirement for them as possible.
Well, I would imagine for a lot of folks, it's a hard transition to go from when you've been taught your whole life, you need to put money away, you need to save for retirement. Retirement years approach, they come, and all of a sudden you have to withdraw money, and all of a sudden psychologically that's gotta be hard for some folks to go ahead and pull that lever and not stress about it, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of our really good savers actually continue to be very good savers in retirement. So sometimes they're a little bit hesitant to spend that money in retirement, and they want to continue to save, but it's a big change of mindset when you go into retirement and you're saying, okay, now I need to rely on the stuff I've saved to provide an income for me. It's scary for some people, and it's a leap of faith to go into retirement. There's a lot of times we'll sit down, we'll do the entire plan for somebody. We'll say, here's your plan, walk them through it. Here's what you need to do. The memories and milestones, retirement roadmap, right? And we'll get all through it. And they'll be like, great, I can retire, awesome. And then about a week later, they're like, Patrick, are you sure I can do this?
Yeah.
You know, they know the numbers.
Right.
They know what it looks like, but they still need that confirmation, and they need somebody there to kind of hold their hand. And that's really what we're there for. We're really not just somebody who's going to manage some assets for somebody, or somebody who's going to write some stuff down on a paper and say, here's your plan. We're there as a consultant. We're there to be with you every step of the way into your retirement, so that you have a partner, you have somebody you can lean on. Somebody's been down that road before.
Right.
You know, with over 20 years of doing this, I've seen a few people retire.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
You know, and I think sometimes I'm a little more stressed maybe than they are, because, you know, I worry too.
It's a huge responsibility, right?
Right, it's a huge responsibility. You're doing things that are changing people's lives. They're taking this leap of faith. They want to make sure that you've done a good job for them, that you put everything in place, that the numbers are right. And it's a huge responsibility that we don't take lightly. We take it very seriously. And, you know, that's why we've teamed up with some CFPs and CFAs, which are Charter Financial Analysts and Certified Financial Planners, so that they can help us make sure we have the very best plan for them. So, you know, folks, if you're sitting at home going, you know what, I really need to get a plan. I think it's time to get something going. Best thing you can do is pick up your phone. We all have that smartphone. You can go ahead and give us a call at 1-833-856-1392. When somebody picks up and answers for you, what you can do is you can go ahead and just say, hey, I want to talk to Patrick or Michael or Victor or Renee. And I can tell you that a lot of people like talking to the young guy. Victor, he's a great guy. Renee is awesome. Michael, my brother, is fantastic. We work as a team for you. So when we develop that roadmap for you, we are really working with our CFAs and CFPs and also our team of advisors for you. And when I'm out of the office, my clients love the fact that I have my advisors back at the office right now to be there for them if they need something. I believe we built a really special place for folks that when they come to retirement, they can say, hey, I've got this plan Patrick put together for me, Michael, Victor, Renee, and I can rely on that team to make sure we stay on track. So again, if you want to make sure you have your retirement roadmap ready for you, go ahead and give us a call at 1-833-856-1392, and we'll go ahead and provide that to you complimentary, free of charge. Just give us a call, 1-833-856-1392.
Patrick, thank you so much. And again, to our viewers at home, you're welcome to call that number, or you can also take out your smartphone and scan that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you to a page where you can actually sign up for your appointment to meet with Patrick and his team directly from your smartphone. We have a lot more to cover in today's episode of the Elite Money Market Update. We'll see you right after this quick commercial break.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just a downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to the Elite Money Market Update. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with CEO of the Elite Retirement Group, Patrick Marcel. Patrick, we're having a great conversation today about the different phases of retirement. We've already talked about the fact that we're living longer than we ever have before. Talk to me about what some of these phases of retirement are for folks these days.
Well, I think we can start out talking about what the typical phases are. So when you first retire, you're going to want to do a lot of things. You're going to want to travel. Your health hopefully will be very good, and you're going to want to have a lot of fun, for sure, right?
No more punching the clock, no more waking up to the alarm, right?
Right, exactly. You're definitely going to want to enjoy it, do all the things you've been dreaming of. That's really the first phase of retirement, and that can last 10 to 15 years depending upon your health and what the things you want to do. If you want to travel overseas, or if you want to just maybe cover the country, go to places you've never gone, that's really where that comes into play. Then the second phase is we start to slow down a little bit. So my mom and dad, I would say, are probably getting into that second phase a little more now, where mom and dad just turned 73, and I'm very lucky because I get to live near them, so I can keep an eye on them, which is awesome. So they had COVID, and when they had COVID, I was able to drop off groceries and do some nice things for them because we're close by. But they're slowing down. Dad used to go fishing all day long, from sun up to sundown. Fish all day long.
That was his first phase of retirement, right?
Right. Actually, that was even before retirement.
Right. Nice.
So now, Dad's like, yeah, let's get there by 8, Patrick. And we can leave by 4 or 5 o'clock. So it makes it easier for him to kind of do things. But he's starting to slow down, and that's okay. And sometimes what can happen when we start to slow down, it cannot necessarily just be the mind that says, hey, I need to slow down a little bit. Sometimes it's your health. Sometimes some things can pop up. Maybe there's some major illnesses, or there's something a chronic illness that rears its head that can really slow you down. So what happens then is, instead of really having those monies you're spending on travel and fun, now you're having to shift some of that over to care and medical expenses. And when I do projections for folks in retirement, most software is going to project this, right? You start here with needs, and you go up like this, and it just always goes up. I'm like, that's not been my experience, really. It's been more, with the exception of inflation, pretty flat, because when you're slowing down that second phase, instead of spending that money that you did in the first part of the retirement, you're spending it over in other stuff. You're not really spending less. You're not really necessarily spending more. Of course, inflation has changed that.
Sure.
But then, that doesn't really change. Now, somewhere in there, it's pretty normal that we get some pay raises and then we increase income for our clients. That's pretty normal. We actually work at building in certain tools for your retirement that allow you to automatically turn on a spigot that has increasing income for you later on in retirement. And those are actually really, really important, because we can't predict what the future will be for inflation or for taxes. So it's nice to have that spigot to turn on for us. And then the third phase, which is we slow down quite a bit more. Now, this really varies. These different phases, we can't say it's from this age to this age, because everybody's different. And that's great. I always say I want to be that person that is 90 years old and giving her yet, right? My brother's wife's grandmother.
Okay. I follow that.
She was still driving in her early 90s yet.
Wow.
And she was very vital, and she did a lot of stuff. And I'm like, that's what I want. Either that, or I want to be like my great grandmother, and I just want to go like that in her sleep. That's how she went. That's how maybe I want to go that way. But the reality is that it'll change again, because we just can't do quite as much.
Sure.
It's harder to travel long distances. Medical issues start to mount potentially, or maybe we just get to the point where it's just hard to do stuff. Quite frankly, arthritis, and you have different things like that. I mean, hate to say it, I'm a pretty young guy, but I've already had a couple issues popping up. I've got a little arthritis here and there, and I can only imagine, what it's like for folks that are, in their 80s or 90s that, that stuff kind of flares up.
Seems like every new decade, there's some new surprise that we have to navigate, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So these 3 phases I would say those are your typical phases. But I also have a passion about helping families with adults with disabilities, because those are different phases. So those that know me, you know that my daughter, she's 22, and maybe she's watching this, Haley, but if you are, hi. I got a couple other friends that I say hi to too, but it's different. So we have to plan for our retirement as part of it being what she's going to be doing with us. So we have to make special accommodations for it. It doesn't mean we can't do stuff.
Sure.
But it just means we have to plan slightly different. And maybe we're doing some things now that are more go-go, if you will, or more activities now, because Haley's health, I don't know what it's going to be like down the road. She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 3 years ago. She's 19 years old, type 1 diabetic. That's not real common. So we just don't know always when this stuff is going to rear its ugly head.
Right.
So you plan a little bit different, but that's one thing I really like to help people out with. So I like helping out with families with adults with disabilities. What options are out there? How do we plan? What can we do? And there's a lot of people that know stuff, and it's just getting those people together to share that. So there's, I think, really two different sides, and really we do help both sides very well.
I love that you have such a special heart for that, especially from your own personal experience. I think that really makes the difference because, as you said, it's not just concerned about your own financial needs, but when you are wanting to care for your adult child with disabilities, it just adds a whole nother element to take into consideration. Absolutely, and
that's really, again, if you don't have the right heart to do this, to really put people's best interests first, it's going to be tough to do. And just if you've met Haley, she's incredible. I've met so many incredible kids, but we really do both. We aren't just a planning firm for people that have a bunch of money. Like some people will say, well, I don't know if I have enough money really to bother you. And I'm like, no, are you serious about retirement planning? Yes. Okay, you want to retire someday? Yes. Okay, great. We will help you one way or another. So like today we're talking about the M&M, the Memories and Milestones, Retirement Roadmap. And we're talking about, hey, we're going to offer that to you. We're going to use our resources, our Chartered Financial Analysts and our CFP, Certified Financial Planners, to put this plan together for you at no cost, no obligation, because we think it's that important to do that. And we want to make sure that you are on track for retirement and help you build out that retirement, whatever it looks like, wherever you're at. Sometimes we may help you build out that plan, and we may say, hey, take this information. If you have other questions, let us know. And we might just not be a great fit at that moment. But I believe so much in the fact that you do good things for people and good things will come back. And I think that's a really important thing. So if you want to make sure that you get your retirement roadmap, just pick up the phone, give us a call at 1-833-856-1392. And we'll be more than happy to get in. You see myself, you can see Victor, Michael, or Renee. And we'll be more than happy to sit down with you, get your roadmap put together for you, get you on track for your retirement, and wherever that takes you, we want to be part of the ride.
Wonderful, Patrick. Thank you so much. Again, to our viewers at home, the number to call is on the bottom of your screen, 833-856-1392, or you're welcome to take out your smartphone, scan that QR code. That will take you over to get your appointment scheduled to come in and meet with Patrick and his team. We have more to cover. When we come back, we're going to be talking about one of the biggest needs that you need to plan for throughout retirement. More with Patrick when we come back.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to the Elite Money Market Update. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Patrick Marcel, CEO of the Elite Retirement Group. Patrick, we're talking today about the phases of retirement, and I know that we need to cover one of the most important, almost hidden costs, or the cost that a lot of times folks don't plan for and prepare for in retirement. And what is that cost?
Long-term care. And, you know, it's one of those things none of us want to really think about. We don't want to, you know, have to think about, well, gee, yeah, if I can't take care of myself, you know, what's going to happen? How am I going to do that?
Right.
And I think that, you know, even myself, I know for my wife and I, with Haley, we are not one of those people like, yeah, well, we'll take some respite care. You know, somebody come watch Haley for a while. I mean, we don't, because we feel an obligation. So I think we can really understand, I can understand where people are coming from when say, hey, we're going to care for each other, and that's our game plan. And that's great. I think that's awesome. There was, when I was coming out, I was on an airplane, and there was a lady sitting next to me, and she was very upset. And I'm not necessarily great at, you know, being, you know, consoling. So I was trying my best, and and what happened with her is her mother had dementia for over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And now her mother was towards the end, and she was just talking to me about it and talking to me about the journey and how her dad took care of her for all that time, which is tremendous. You just don't see that very often. It's not because people don't want to, or there's not the love or the passion there. It's hard.
It is hard work.
Yeah, when you don't know that person anymore, when they're different, if they're mean, if they're, you know, you just don't know.
Right.
So planning for long-term care isn't something fun that we want to think about. It's not something that we're like, hey, yeah, or we will think, this isn't going to happen to me. But we need to think about, we need to plan for it, and we need to think about maybe even additional ways to plan for long-term care than the traditional thoughts.
So I'm curious, you know, because it varies by state, it varies by location. So in your area in Wisconsin, what's the current average of the monthly costs for long-term care facilities?
Well, we don't normally go from our living in our home right to a facility. Usually there's some sort of in between. So we might end up needing, you know, adult daycare, respite care, something like that. We might end up going to an assisted living facility where, you know, that's around $4,000 or $5,000 a month for a nice facility. If we do need to go to a long-term care facility, you know, you're talking well north of $10,000. And when I look around the country,
and that's $10,000 a month.
Yeah, $10,000 a month. And you look around the country and you see that actually Wisconsin's a little bit higher on average than a lot of other places. But you know what? I mean, it's a lot of care. It's a lot that goes on. So yeah, we definitely need to plan for that. That's a big expense. Hoping that it just doesn't happen to you isn't a real plan.
So what are some of the solutions that you're able to provide for your clients in order to help them prepare for those long-term care costs?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have to first of all look at is where are you at financially? Can you self-insure? Can you partially self-insure? Do you even want insurance at all? Maybe those options are off the table. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe you have a health condition that doesn't allow you to insure. And quite frankly, I'm the school of thought of saying, yes, long-term care can play a very important role for us, long-term care insurance, but it's not necessarily for everybody, and it can get very, very expensive. So a lot of times we end up looking at alternative ways to plan. So one of those ways, maybe we seek legal advice, and we go and we look and say, all right, I'm going to meet with this attorney, and we work with an attorney out of Wausau that does an awesome job of helping people plan for Medicaid and prepare for Medicaid. But then we might say, well, that's fine, Danny, but that's kind of expensive. What else can I do? There's a couple other strategies that we can work on for our clients, and one of them is by simply repositioning some of their assets. We can take and say, okay, well, if we take this money over here in one of your buckets and we move it, maybe it's an IRA over here. And we say, all right, now, if you need long-term care, we can, this bucket that you put, let's just say $100,000 in, maybe we can get out $200,000 or $300,000 of long-term care benefit. Well, what if I don't need long-term care benefit, Patrick? Then what happens? Well, then if you don't need that long-term care benefit, you can either take the money out, which most people really don't probably, or you can leave a death benefit to your heirs. So you have a couple different options that you can work from when we have that long-term care bucket, that we can take some cash, put it in there, secure the benefits. That's one way. So another way we can do it where we don't have to have any insurance involved really at all is we can take some assets, we can reposition them, because let's face it, right now, how many people are super excited about the stock market? Right?
Yeah, especially after 2022. I don't know.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. It was hard. So you might be thinking, maybe you've recovered some of that, maybe you're doing better, but you might say, hey, I want to take some of that risk off the table.
Right.
I want to take some of that money, move it into a place I can't go backwards, and then I can create future income for myself. And oh yeah, by the way, if I'm needing care, and it doesn't have to be facility care, it can be in your home care, as long as you can't do or perform 2 of 6 activities of daily living, they will take and double your benefit.
Right.
So if you're getting $1,000 a month from that annuity contract, they're going to turn around and they might give you $2,000 a month for up to 5 years to help offset the cost. So it's not something that necessarily will pay the whole bill,
Right.
but it might be enough with some of the other assets that you have that you can go ahead and you can actually pay for long-term care.
Well, clearly, there's lots of different things that have to be taken into consideration. It really depends on your individual financial and personal situation. And I love hearing that you have different solutions based on where someone's at in that process, what they need, because there are so many variables that affect it.
Yeah, and that's, again, why we developed the Memories and Milestones roadmap, is because one of those pieces of the roadmap is, what are you going to do for long-term care? What is your plan? And let's have a realistic plan. Let's have a real conversation about it. And then what we do is we put those ideas together for you. We lay it out for you. Now, of course, again, it can change, and that's perfectly fine. We understand that. But at least having some sort of game plan in place to deal with potential long-term care costs and what our recommendation is for that and how we work into that. And again, that's what a plan is. We're going to work the process, we're going to work into it, and we're going to set you up for success down the road. So if you're saying, well, how do I take advantage of this, Patrick, right? Well, you can pick up the phone, give us a call at 1-833-856-1392, and just ask for your free complimentary Memories and Milestones roadmap that, again, we're preparing with our team and our CFPs and CFAs.
That's wonderful. Patrick, again, thank you so much. It's always a joy to be here with you. To our viewers at home, thank you so much for watching. Again, that number to call to get your complimentary Memories and Milestone Retirement Roadmap is 833-856-1392. Also, you can use your smartphone, scan that QR code that will take you to a page to set up your appointment as well. We hope that you found today's information to be very valuable. And if you're having questions at home, don't wait. Just pick up the phone, give Patrick and his team a call. They'll be happy to meet with you. Until next time, be educated, be empowered, and most of all, be prepared. We'll see you next week.